Repositioning in bed under supervision. For people who only require supervision or verbal guidance to reposition in bed, ensure you provide simple, clear instructions when supporting. To support someone to move in bed, first start by asking them to bend their knees so that their feet are on the bed. Next, guide them to raise their hips and bridge up. From this position, they should be able to push through their legs and push themselves up the bed. If they need some assistance, stabilising the feet will achieve this. Repositioning in bed with 2 staff assist and a slide sheet. If a person is unable to reposition themselves in bed, they may require assistance with a slide sheet. Generally, 2 staff are required to utilise a slide sheet to reposition a person in bed. Before you begin, ensure that you have adequate space to complete the task. The first step is to prepare your slide sheet by folding it in half with the open end position towards the direction of movement, making sure it covers the shoulder and hips. To get the slide sheet underneath your person, roll them onto their side by following. Assisting your client without a mobility aid. Position yourself to the side of the client and slightly behind. Place one hand on their front shoulder or in a handhold position and the other on their lower back. Guide your client to where they need to go by clearly explaining the walking path. Provide as much assistance in this position as needed. Avoid hooking underneath their armpit or walking too quickly. Assisting your client with their mobility aid. When assisting your client with their mobility aid, ensure that you position yourself to the side of the client and slightly behind. Place one hand on the front of their shoulder and the other on the lower back as necessary. If your client has a walking stick, stand on the opposite side to where the walking stick is. Guide your client to where they need to go by clearly explaining the walking path and destination. If assisting your client with their 4-wheel walker, position your hands with one hand on the walker and the other on their lower back. You may need to help them direct their 4-wheel walker to stay straight or avoid hazards. Depending on your client's ability will determine how much assistance you are required to provide. Always remember, even if your client doesn't need to be physically assisted, you should always remain. Assisting your client into and out of your vehicle with their wheelchair and a wheelchair ramp. Ensure your car is parked at a level surface where possible with plenty of space to move at the rear of your vehicle. Check that the environment is clear from trip hazards or obstacles. Open the rear door and lower the ramp as per manufacturer's instructions, ensuring to maintain a neutral spine and a semi-squat position. Maneuver your client's wheelchair to position them directly behind the ramp in preparation for loading. Engage the brakes prior to retrieving the necessary straps for tying down. Place these straps in an easy-to-access position. Attach the safety straps to the wheelchair if your vehicle has these, ensuring they attach to the right and the left and on the wheelchair frame. Disengage the brakes and push the wheelchair in a controlled manner up the ramp so that your client is forward facing in your vehicle. Re-engage the brakes before continuing. Secure the wheelchair to your vehicle by utilising the back 2 tie-down straps before placing the seatbelt on. To place the seatbelt on, first ensure all components of the seatbelt are positioned correctly around your client. The front clip should be low around your client's waist. Ensure that the anchor point is accessible. The back should be attached to the corresponding anchor point and tighten the straps so they are firm. Standing transfer aid. Prior to commencing transfer with the standing transfer aid, ensure that the environment is clear of trip hazards, including large pieces of furniture. Position the bed appropriately in the room, ensuring that the brakes are engaged prior to transfer. When gathering equipment for this transfer, ensure that the equipment is in good working order. A reminder that 2 staff members are required at all times to operate the standing transfer aid, unless otherwise determined by your organisation. Prior to commencing transfer, ensure to gain consent. With the room set up, one staff should control the transfer aid while the other supports the person to raise their legs onto the foot plates. Engage the brakes prior to assisting the person to stand. From here, the person should have their hands on the handlebars and knees on the knee cushion. With one staff member on either side, assist the person to come into standing by placing hands on their lower back and the front of the person's shoulder. Once they are in standing, position the seat plates. With seat ready, support the person to sit down, ready to transfer. One staff should stay behind the person whilst the other positions themselves at the front to start the transfer. Disengage the brakes prior to transferring. Once they are clear of the bed, utilise the machine brakes to guide the transfer aid into position, ready to receive the wheelchair or commode. With brakes on the transfer aid and the wheelchair, each staff member can now position themselves either side of the person to support them into standing. Once they are in standing, remove the seat plates and support them to slowly lower to the wheelchair or commode.